Hello there, wellness entrepreneurs. Welcome back. Today, I'm honored to have special guest, Anat Peri, and she is an inner child expert and a mentor to practitioners. She mentors them in practitioner skills and has the training camp for the soul. Anat, welcome.
Thank you, Allison. Great to be here, kicking off the new year. You're my first
Yeah,
podcast of the year,
I
as I'm
love
sure
it.
I am
Yeah,
yours.
beautiful. Well, tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days, how you're helping practitioners.
Yeah, so I, for the past going on 6 years now, have been training them in my methodology. So I have a certification program, and really it was birthed from my clients saying to me, like, this is incredible. I've tried so many things. I need to learn to do what you do. So it was never my plan, but a demand of them. And it really is bringing the body and the mind working cohesively together. There's a lot of trainings out there that may focus on the body, the somatics, the energy, and then there's ones that focus on the mindset and all that, but really bridging both and giving people a process, a step-by-step process, a method, like I call it the 5 stages of healing, understanding that there's stages and being able to identify, no matter who's sitting in front of you, what stage they're at and support them in completing the process. And so it's not just let me throw a bunch of tools at you where you still have to figure out, okay, when do I use what tool? It more really walks you through that. And so that's really been where my heart has been the most fulfilled is now passing along and training others and seeing a variety of different practitioners from coaches to body workers to physical therapists to chiropractors be able to expand how they serve their clients and get their clients the deepest results.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love this. Because I'm actually considering your program for myself, being a practitioner junkie. I could see me integrating the work in my own sessions since I help clients with the business side, but strategy as well as like nervous system and mindset. And but I do think one objection that comes up with my audience a lot as they're trying to. If they're a brick and mortar or a manual practitioner, they're used to being in person helping people, and they're really wanting to go online. I feel like bringing in this work is such an added bonus for their clients, especially if they want to work online. But of course, it can be used in person as well. What are some of the results that, your practitioners, when they're bringing this work to their clients, what are some of the results that their clients are experiencing with this type of work?
I mean, the deep healing, like deep trauma healing from, it could be physical symptoms that go away to just I've had students myself that have come and gone through the work that they themselves had like big T trauma. You're talking like sexual abuse, you know, parents that were, that neglected them, all this stuff. And I'm thinking of one in particular that she herself was a trauma trained coach
Mm,
and realized that a lot of what she learned more on like an intellectual level about trauma versus learning how to really move that energy through the body. And so like experiencing that deep healing themselves to, having the courage to leave abusive relationships, to leave jobs that weren't aligned, to start businesses. I mean, everything across the board. And, to piggyback on what you said of practitioners that are very hands-on. I've had many students go through my work that wanted that flexibility of being virtual. And the truth is that when that patient comes to you and you're hands on, they're talking to you the whole time, usually. They're talking about all the other problems that are not just the physical. They're complaining about, their kids, their job, their partner,
that's
being
overwhelming.
single, all these things. And to have the ability to hear what they're saying and know, like, oh my God, if I had a 90-minute session with them right now, wow, the depth that of freedom that this person could experience is great. It just opens you up to supporting someone who already trusts you.
Yeah, 100%. Yep, I love that. It's a great compliment. In fact, it maybe can even enhance the work done in your in-person sessions, right? It actually can speed the process along when the whole person is addressed, not maybe just a physical area.
Well, there's issues in the tissues.
Yeah.
We're working on the physical, but so much of it is like emotions that are trapped. I'll speak about myself.
Mhm.
For most of my like teenage years to like 20s, like before I did my deep healing work, which to me really is the inner child work. My psoas, right? My left and right psoas were so tight,
Mm-hmm.
and tight to the point where I used to have a desk job. I worked for Deepak Chopra at the Chopra Center. And in the middle of the day, it would start burning
Mm.
where I'd be like hitting it, like punching it to like try and release the that 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 tension that was there. And it's a very common area that we hold on to our emotions, unprocessed emotions. And as I was working with my mentor, going through my, reparenting the mother, healing all of that, the left side, they say, is the feminine, the mother. It was
Mm.
fascinating to experience my left hip open up.
Mm. Mm.
And so how much of like the flare-ups that clients experience physically are emotionally, because there's some unprocessed emotion, trauma, the nervous system is, wired, is activated. And so it really does complement that and supports the physical healing. Yes.
So the work that you do, because you mentioned, the practitioners experience the healing themselves, they embody it themselves. It's more than just intellectual. Tell us a little bit about like what that looks like for them. And there are a lot of somatic practitioners listening, and maybe also tell how the work that you teach and guide practitioners through is different or maybe the same, because I haven't been through your training, I'm not sure, compared to others, more movement-based somatic practices that, are, breath with movement, closing the eyes type of somatic practices. Walk us a
Yeah.
little bit through
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So again, going to what I shared before of like there's 5 stages
Mm-hmm.
to the healing, right? So you can consider that that's the process. And in
Mm-hmm.
each stage, there's a method or there's multiple methods. So the somatic part is absolutely part of it, from breath work to any kind of movement, depending on the person and what they need. But there's really 3 major pillars, and that is the nervous system, reparenting, inner child reparenting, which is about uncovering what we learned in childhood
Mm-hmm.
and understanding that it's an imprint, and that we get to come to the root of that imprint and give ourselves an opportunity to reparent, to give something new that's there. And then lastly, understanding our survival strategies, our patterns. So many times, like that's something that I started to get into about 6 years ago, is understanding the personality patterns, and that someone who tends to dissociate from their body needs a different approach to moving through the stages than someone who endures and holds everything down and pushes everything down. And so when I'm teaching my students, is I'm teaching them also first and foremost how to, in stage 1, is awareness. Not only awareness of what the client knows they want to deal with, but awareness of where's their nervous system at, and do they tend to collapse, to dissociate, to endure, to control, to force. Like once we understand that, then I know how to guide them somatically. So
Love that.
it's deep. It's like, well, someone who dissociates somatically, they need a lot of like self activation, self touch. Like
Mm-hmm.
let's just start to feel what it's like to be back in the body. Let's maybe massage our arms or slap our arms like I'm doing right now, just to remember, oh, sensations. Oh, I do have a body. Oh, activating that type of somatic movement versus someone who endures and is used to stuffing down all their emotions. I am definitely going to have them stand up and move and shake, to kind of shake the bottle that they've been stuffing everything into. And so that's a part of the teaching and the learning of it. And that's part of what happens in stage 1. And stage 2 is acceptance. And acceptance is not just like accepting what happened, but it's learning how to let whatever energy, whatever emotion is there move through you. This is, to me, stage 2 is very much the somatic part of it. Let's get into the ocean of your emotions and learn how to ride the actual waves that are there. And so we're supporting the clients in moving the energy and feeling the feelings all the way through, and understanding what it is to feel a feeling and express that. through. And so it's similar to a lot of work that's out there.
Mhm.
Sure. But then we get to stage 3, which is
Mhm.
getting to the root, which
Mhm.
is working on the mind, the subconscious of, okay, we moved the emotions that are out, but there's a belief that's tied to these emotions that triggered this. And there's a story tied to that. And there's a root to that. There's a time when you learned this, whether you saw it, heard it, or felt it from mom or dad, whether you copied or rebelled. That's the exploration of stage 3, is uncovering the origin of it. And then sometimes there's more emotions that then come up that get to be felt through. And then learning to reparent that, which is stage 4, reparenting and rewiring. So we're working on energetically, emotionally giving ourselves what we needed, or acknowledging what we never got, the heartbreak from dad. You know, a lot of the inner child work that I teach is very much about mom representing an extension of self. That is, and I've seen evidence of it 100 million times now. Maybe not that much, but you get it. And dad representing everything that's not the self, others in the world, and therefore, like your first relationship with something outside of you. And so, in healing that and reparenting that, you as a practitioner are learning how to recognize the difference with what where a client is at, and how to help them establish a new relationship with themselves, that foundation, before they even get into anything related to others. So there's so much depth here when you think about a client coming to you because their challenge is their partner, their marriage, or that they're single and they want a relationship. And if you're not trained in my method, you might jump into helping them with that. Where I would be like, oh, we're not touching that for about 2 months.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Yeah, we first need to look at your relationship with yourself and establishing all of that as a solid foundation of how you are loving yourself, listening to yourself, acknowledging yourself, because that's who's showing up in this relationship or lack of relationship, right?
Yep.
And so that's another big part of it as well, in the awareness and in the getting to the root. Even if someone says to me, well, I know that this is something I learned from my dad. This is what my dad did to me, blah, blah, blah. I'd say, great. So where was mom? What did mom do when dad was being that way with you?
Mhm.
That's what you learned to do to yourself, or that's how you rebelled and did the opposite. So there's still so much that we get to establish with our relationship with ourselves, and how we love ourselves, and listen to ourselves, and know and get to a point where you are your own inner best friend, inner cheerleader,
Which is
and
so hard.
nurturer.
Uh-huh.
And when that is established, you know, then there's this level of self-love and safety that, you know, no matter what, I've got me.
Mhm.
And going out into the world, AKA father, AKA others, with that intact, now you can really face the world, embrace relationships from a place of safety, which means you can be vulnerable. You can come from an open heart.
Mm. Or from like the practitioner that's running a business, right? Having a practice is that they're able to, try new things. She, set up the workshop, maybe have it, no one show up, no one register because it's their very first workshop, but they're not going to make it mean that something's wrong with them, or that they can't be in
Exactly.
entrepreneurship and then quit, or like run the endless spin cycle of self-doubt in their mind over and over again, so that business becomes so exhausting that then they quit, right? Instead, they just make it, okay, I'm going to take the data of what I learned from that experience, I'm going to troubleshoot it, and I'm going to go forward, instead of making it mean something like personal about them.
Exactly. Exactly. Because I love that you brought this up. And I know, you work with a lot of people for their businesses. So you've seen this happen so many times. What's missing in that is that they're not being their own inner cheerleader, inner best friend. In that moment, they're like, oh no, see, I suck. No one's ever going to
Exactly.
want to work with me.
Yeah.
I'm going to fail at this. And it's like, you are saying that to yourself.
Yes. Yes.
And so, exactly, to be able to get to a place where, like, hey, it's all good. This happens. Let's learn, let's look at the data, blah, blah, blah. And I can do this. And let's see how I want to shift for the next time. Exactly. So, same thing. And so, you're hitting on exactly why it's so important that there is that new foundation with self.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that place, they could really approach the impact of what they learned from the world that they grew up in, what
Mm-hmm.
how their father was, which a lot of times brings bigger emotion. I also
Oh,
talk about like emotionally wise, somatic wise, usually moving through the mother stuff is smaller waves, and then father is big heartbreak.
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Some area I have not heard talk so much. I've heard a lot about like reparenting and mom wounds and dad wounds. I don't hear talked about a lot is sibling.
Mm.
What's
Hmm.
your thoughts on that?
So I'm thinking of a recent client of mine that, yeah, has a major wound with her sister. There's and the mom, right? Like those were like the two big ones there. And her sister took on the role of mom because
Mm,
mom was just not there, right? So big sister stepped in, and now as an adult, I think her sister has a bigger wound with her probably. There's so much anger,
mm,
so
exactly.
much resentment.
Mhm.
And so so yes, it gets talked about, and and I've supported my client in understanding her sister's survival patterns, and that I am and I could see that one of her sister's patterns is aggressive, is the wounding of, well, mom actually abandoned you, neglected you, didn't show up for you, and and she chose to, in that moment, take on that role and be there for her sister. And what's unhealed for her is the anger, is the betrayal, is the neglect. And so when I give that reflection to my client, she's able to have more compassion for her sister instead of her sister's always aggressive. She's so angry, all this stuff. It's like, okay, that's just her way of expressing it. Your way is to dissociate. Her way is to throw fireballs. And for my client to learn to be able to be with that more, to let her sister understand this is just her way of expressing. It's just that in society or normally, like we feel fire more than we feel air, absence, right? The dissociation, being around someone dissociating doesn't feel as activating to our system as being around someone who yells at you,
Right.
right? Everybody felt that just now as I surprised you with that. And so it's actually an opportunity to develop our capacity to be with that big energy, to know when it's like the difference between someone expressing it and someone, it's like and someone throwing it at you. They
Mm,
say fire could feed a whole village,
mm.
but it could also burn a whole village down. The difference is how it's directed. So anyhow, I feel like I'm going off tangent here, but really so yes, there is wounds with siblings for sure, and it still comes back to self and others, and establishing a deeper healing with yourself so that I can be with fire. Like if that was my sister, okay, all right, she's angry right now, yep, and I can let her express it and not take it on as if I have to defend myself because she doesn't know how to hold it yet, so she's firing it off at me.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So your clients then did you say step five is step five that capacity?
No, no. Capacity gets developed through the practice of all of it,
Mm-hmm.
uh, especially learning how to cultivate safety in our system,
Hmm.
which I have a free audio guide of, and how to let emotions be expressed, how to actually ride the waves, how to work with our nervous system because our nervous system is always working for us. It's listening for safety or threat. When it senses threat, it puts us into this protective fight, flight, freeze, please mode. When it senses safety, it will learn it will metabolize it, and you will expand. And so most people aren't feeling their feelings. They're judging their feelings, they're thinking about their feelings, they're questioning their feelings, they're stuffing them, they're numbing from them. And so as we learn how to move energy, how to express those emotions again, the way a 2-year-old does. You have kids, you remember what it's like. They don't want to talk about it. They just want to express it, whether it's happiness, joyfulness, or, they're upset because big brother, doesn't want to play with them. And so as we learn to express all that, again, we're learning how to move energy as opposed we're learning how to work with our nervous system. We're building that capacity.
Mhm.
So a client like even myself, anger was something I wrote off. I was like, anger? I don't feel anger. I don't have anger. You shouldn't have anger. Like that was my unconscious belief around growing up in a household where mom yelled a lot. I rebelled, my brother copied. And I was like, no, no, no. Only to discover in my healing work, my healing journey, oh, I definitely have anger. I
Mhm.
just let it just stuff down, harbor, and not allow myself to ever express it.
Yeah, your nervous system considered it like dangerous.
Exactly, exactly. So we learn to retrain, rewire the nervous system for the full spectrum of emotions. They're just
Mhm.
energy. There's no good or bad in emotions. There's pleasant, unpleasant, low energy, high energy. That's it. That's the truth. But we've learned that it's okay to laugh. It's not okay to cry.
Yeah,
This is
or
bad. This is good.
just avoid the uncomfortable emotions because I think, like you say, we consider them bad, or we haven't taught ourselves or even experienced on ourselves like riding through the wave of an uncomfortable emotion so that your nervous system knows that it is safe to feel,
Exactly.
experience.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's stage two. That's a
Mhm.
big part of the method. Is like, well, first off, how do you warm up before you get into the ocean of your emotions? So can't rush that to getting into the the body, the emotions, the sensations that are there. Sensations are the language of the nervous system. It's how we start to communicate and let it know, hey, let's get curious here.
And
And
are
then,
there, oh, I'm sorry.
no, please.
There are times, with your own clients or practitioners that have clients, are there certain scenarios like where I'm not sure how to word this, but that maybe are like red flags where you might say, okay, this riding the emotion, like if someone, for example, is experiencing many days of depression in a row or has like I don't suicidal tendencies or things like that. Like, what
Of
do you do
course.
with
Of
like
course,
those?
of course. We have to be trauma informed here, right?
Mhm.
If you have suicidal tendencies, we need to, you know, refer you out to someone. And I think that's happened to me once in the past 10 years. But depression,
Mhm.
so depression all the time.
Mhm.
And it's a label that people rush to quickly. And I ask them a couple of questions, or I assess where they're at in their journey with me, and I'll share more. I had a to me depression is if you break the word, it says deep rest.
Mhm.
It's your system wanting deep rest from something. It could be the strategies that the survival strategies that you've created to survive life, where you're not in the driver's seat. Your inner child isn't even in the back seat. It's been locked up in the trunk. Like you're that disconnected from yourself. You are that much not listening to your heart, your truth, yourself, that you're depressed.
What does that look like? How would if how does a person show up like as a entrepreneur, right? How might that show up in their day to day?
Oh, great question. Yeah. They're forcing themselves to do the things that they think are the right thing to do to build their business
Mhm.
because they don't want to feel the fear of their business failing. I don't want to feel that,
Mhm.
right? So to me, the inner child is your emotion. It's the
Mhm.
part of you that's holding all of the emotions. And so, little Allison is saying, but I'm really afraid that like it's not gonna work out, and like I'm just so scared that like then I'll have nothing and I'll have to go get a job and whatever, whatever, right? And instead of listening to that little child, you're like, I'm just gonna throw you in the trunk of the car. I'm gonna turn the music up, and I'm gonna just go wherever I've seen other people go. And
Mhm.
you and I both been in business long enough to know there's many ways to build a business, there's many ways to market, and not all are gonna resonate with you. I love being interviewed on podcasts.
Mhm.
That's my jam, right? Some people will never do that. That's not a way they want to market and grow their business. They want to do content on Instagram or whatever. Some people will never want to do that. So that's one of the ways that it shows up.
I
And I've
have
been there.
then if how do you discern the difference between okay, so I get this a lot, right? Entrepreneurs not wanting to show up and self-promote or market, right? Because it feels uncomfortable, they don't want to do it, yet they know it's something that they should do, right? So how do you discern the difference between abandoning yourself, not listening to yourself, throwing the inner child in the trunk versus an area that might be a growth edge?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's to uncover the beliefs that are underneath it and the emotions that you don't want to feel, the fear of rejection and all that. And it's like once they've moved through all that,
Mm.
not that you never feel it again. It's that you've trained your nervous system for it. So, a little personal story here. I had a couple of years, 4 years ago, a really traumatic, experience in my business of, I had a CEO and he did things that he shouldn't have. And, I let him go, but my business took a big hit from it. And it threw me into a loop, into survival for a year and a year and a half, where around this time, January 2nd, 2 years ago, I woke up with like, well, I just set these big goals for myself for 2024. And I woke up January 2nd and like, I don't want to do any of this. Oh my God, I've been forcing myself to do so many things. And so I was afraid of, after 8 years of being in business, that I wouldn't recover, that it'd be another tough year.
Mhm.
And I felt through that fear for the first time. So my method has evolved. What I'm sharing, what I've shared with you on this interview so far, a lot of it also came to life from me in the past 2 years. Like that experience of that was me. That's why it was so easy for me to answer. I was like, I was doing all the things,
Mhm.
half of which I didn't enjoy doing at the time, not wanting to feel that fear of the business failing. Instead, January 2 years ago, I finally felt through it and got to a place internally where I could be okay with either way.
Mhm.
And that released so much energy that I didn't want to put out, that we're not aware that we are putting out. And things started to naturally click and shift for me. And to this day, I put myself into, I mean, I did a TED talk. I
Mhm.
like chose to do that a year ago. I chose to do a lot of things in the past 2 years that normally would have been a no for me, an edge for me, not going there, right?
Mhm.
You shared. And it's not that I don't experience fear. It's
Mhm.
that fear moves through me so fast. So here's what you have to understand about the nervous system. The nervous system responds in zero point 0.2 seconds.
Mhm.
Your conscious mind in 2 seconds. So 10 times faster. So when something is programmed as safe for the nervous system to metabolize, like fear is for me now, where it wasn't 2 years ago, it doesn't reach my conscious awareness. Because in 2 seconds, when it shows up in my system, it gets metabolized, it gets
Mhm.
discharged. So it doesn't reach my
Not a
conscious
block as
awareness. Yeah. So it doesn't take away my presence.
much. Mhm.
And again, 2 seconds is quick. So what's happening that you're talking about is you're suggesting something to a client of yours and they're like, oh, but, and they, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, I'll do it, Allison. And then the next day, oh, I didn't do it.
Mhm.
Because when they went to do it, emotion came up and it reached their conscious awareness and they talked themselves out of it and they didn't do it.
Yeah.
And so the power of learning to feel through that and training our nervous system to be with it and to let it be there, then we're moving with fear. Like, yeah, fear comes up all the time. I'm sure when I got on that stage and did my TED talk, it was there. And when I did my first keynote, but wow, I did it anyway. Wow,
Mhm.
who is this person? Hmm.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so you don't have to force as much, which is,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
forcing that contributes to
burnout.
a lot of the exhaustion, or it can lead to like the burnout, and then that's when we get to that stage, it's like I see a lot of people quitting when really
Yeah,
this is what'll help them.
exactly, exactly. I also want to touch on the other side of depression. What people say is depression.
Mhm.
So if you have, so I had a student in my last round of my certification program that has had big T trauma,
Mhm.
and was 39. Yeah, when she's 39 years old. And so I'm talking trauma from her childhood, right? So she spent 30 something years running from it,
Mm. Mhm.
unaware that her nervous system is running from it, is protecting her from it because it doesn't know how to be with it. Well, in the program, she healed, like she moved through it. She faced all of it and expanded from it, especially at the retreat. There's a 6 day intensive as part of the certification program that's about 2 months in, and she felt like she was on top of the world
Mm.
at that retreat after moving through something that she never thought she could.
Mm.
Then the following 2 3 weeks, maybe a month, well, within a week of getting home, right, she found herself really tired,
Mm.
not wanting to do anything, not wanting to get out of bed, crying a lot. And she said to me, "Anat, I think I don't know what's wrong. I'm depressed again."
Mm.
And I go, "No, no, no, you're not depressed. You're finally able to rest."
Mm. You're feeling it. Judith Hanson Lassiter said this too. Like sometimes the letting go and the surrendering to the presence, sometimes it can it doesn't feel the way we think we will. It can
Yeah,
feel really
at
uncomfortable.
first, exactly, exactly. So imagine spending your life, imagine spending a whole day, thousands of years ago, running from a tiger that wants to kill you. You're not going to stop running. And then somebody comes and kills that tiger, and you could finally stop running. What do you think would happen? You would collapse. You would start crying because you'd be like, "Oh my God, I survived that. Oh my God." And you'd probably sleep for a whole week.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yet we label it as there's something wrong. I must be depressed. I thought I healed that, but instead I didn't. And so
Or
I
we
said,
think it won't end ever.
yeah. And so I said to my student, I was like, I want you to stop judging your need for rest and stop judging your crying. And I want you to embrace it completely. For as long as it's needed, it gets to be. And within a month, yeah, it fully recovered. And she found her strength and her power again. And so we don't realize what it's like when we've been in a dysregulated nervous system for so long and it finally feels safe enough to heal that it's actually going to, like you said, go the other way first for a little while. And you get to nurture that and embrace that and take that deep rest instead of depressed and let the healing fully integrate.
Yeah, I love all this. And we could talk for sessions. I might have to have you back here for a part B.
Wait. One more though, because people are like, what's stage five? Stage
Uh,
five is integration.
integration.
And integration is on average, and this is my mentor, my mentor who taught this work for 40 years. He passed away, but 40 years he was a body mind psychologist, is the one that told me this. And I've seen it now in the past 10 years. Integration on average is an 18-month journey,
That's deep.
especially with big parts of your identity. If you're going from being a people pleaser your whole life to having a voice, to saying no, to standing up for yourself, 18-month journey. And so this is such an important stage to realize that it's a stage of crossing a bridge. And I don't mean a bridge like, that you drive across that's solid. I'm talking about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and it's a wobbly bridge from the old version of you to the new version of you. And there's going to be moments where you're going to feel it wobbly and you're going to fall back. And so to have grace and compassion for yourself and how quickly can you realign and take a step forward? Or on days that you feel really solid, how much can you take action to move forward? I've seen so many people like my student that I was just referring to that thought, uh-oh, there must be something wrong. I'm depressed. I need to dig more. And I'm like, no, 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 this is your integration of this. And so honoring that stage instead of thinking that we need to heal more, fix more, dig more.
I love that. And having the awareness of the time, I think is so helpful too, because sometimes we underestimate how long,
Hmm. Yeah. I've had past clients that'll message me and they'll say, Anat, you're right. It's around 18 months. It clicked. It just fully clicked.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I'll have to have you on again for a part B. But in the meantime, tell us, I think you mentioned a free support guide, and tell us also where they can find and learn more about your training and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So My website, trainingcampforthesoul.com, has everything. There's a few different freebies in there, and I'll give you all. One is really great for practitioners and how to recognize their clients' survival strategies. And the other one is for your own self to learn how to cultivate safety and work with your nervous system. And I hang out mainly on Instagram. It's where I post my content. And so if you follow me on Instagram, you will get a message from me within a week. I think that's how you and I connect.
Yeah, Instagram. Yeah.
I love getting to know the human behind the follower because you never know what opportunities happen. Like here we are having this podcast because of that. So,
Yeah. What's your Instagram handle?
Anat Peri or Anat.Peri. Yeah.
Okay. And that's ANAT.PERI. Just for
Yes.
those of you listening. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Any final parting words of wisdom for practitioners who you might have created a big awareness for them?
For yourself and for your clients, remember that the only way to feel better is to get better at feeling.
I love that. Simple and powerful.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, thank you.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy New Year to you.
Awesome, Allison. Thanks again for having me.
This episode is brought to you by Jane, a practice management software and EMR designed for wellness practitioners who value structure, simplicity, and calm growth. If you're a skilled wellness practitioner who's tired of tech overwhelm and administrative chaos, Jane understands. Your expertise should be focused on client transformation, not wrestling with software. Jane provides the structure and systems you need to run a sustainable practice. With Jane's streamlined online booking, your clients can easily schedule at times that work for them. With smart features like waitlist notifications, those last-minute cancellations become opportunities, not losses. It's a simple way to maintain consistent revenue without the constant hustle of filling your calendar. During sessions, Jane's AI-powered documentation helps you capture important notes, efficiently allowing you to stay present and focused on delivering exceptional care. After appointments, you can end on a healing note rather than a transactional one by charging cards on file and handling rebooking before the client leaves, creating the organized, professional experience your business deserves. To discover how Jane can help you build a more structured, scalable wellness practice that works even when you're offline, resting, use the link in the show notes. And especially for you, Ignite Your Wellness Business listeners, when you're ready to implement the simple system that supports your growth, use code IGNITE1MO. So that's IGNITE1MO to get your first month complimentary. That code will also be in the show notes.